The solo agent stuff is between zero, obviously, to making like, let's just say 100 to 150K a year. That's solo agent stuff. You're doing about a deal or so, maybe 2 deals a year. Next, it's solo plus. Now, solo plus is a little bit like 150 to like, let's say 300K. Now, solo plus includes you plus a TC, you plus a lead manager. This is you plus maybe even a showing agent. Again, for you to grow and to start making some serious money, right, you're going to have to start bringing some people on. At the very beginning of your career, it's going to be you by yourself making the calls, doing the admin stuff, doing the marketing, going to tour properties, making the offers, submitting the letters of intent, negotiating, doing everything, right? That's what we do. And then obviously once you start closing a deal, maybe two, you can start reinvesting into the business. And now you start hiring the transaction coordinator on a per transaction basis. You hire the lead manager, a VA, who you can obviously have manage your CRM system, make sure the tasks are getting done, making sure every lead's on a campaign, making sure everything's very organized. And then you can bring on a showing agent. A showing agent can be someone literally as simple as it sounds, as somebody where you can pay them, let's say, $25 an hour, $30 an hour, nothing crazy, and you only use them when you need them. But this is an individual you can lean on and say, hey, I got a couple tours this week, can you handle this? And you pay them $25, $30 or so dollars an hour. All fairly affordable stuff where you can really be at a sub $2,000 or $3,000 a month number, depending on how many closings. Obviously, your transaction coordinator will be like $500 to $1,000 a closing. So obviously, it depends on how many closings you have, but you're not going to be worried about it because when you close a deal, then you pay them. Transaction coordinator on a per transaction basis. Lead manager, you can pay a lead manager, which is a VA, not a full-time employee, a VA. You can literally pay them less than $1,000 a month or so. I pay, two VAs, $800 and $1,000 a month to be our lead managers. And then we have showing agents, where you can have a showing agent for, again, as little as 20 bucks an hour. I mean, it depends on your market, but $25 an hour probably at the cheapest. If they do 20 tours for you, it's $500, right? Like it doesn't have to be expensive. The point is to keep you in high dollar productive activities. That's solo plus. Now you're going to small team, right? Small team. Let's talk about this. Small team, which by the way, there is something I talked about at the event this weekend, which I'm very excited for that content to come out. There's a lot of good stuff that came from it. Awesome event. It went super, super well. So, I was asked to speak at an event and it went amazing. A lot of really, really cool people there. One thing I talked about was the big mistakes that people make when building a team. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is that they start bringing on junior agents. Number one, way too soon. It's like if you're not making 300 grand a year or so, you have nothing to provide value-wise to people, right? You just don't. Like you have nothing to provide them. If you're making 100 grand a year and you start bringing on a junior agent, what on God's green earth have you done that you feel like you can go teach people? It's like you've maybe sold 1 or 2 deals. It's like go sell 20 properties before you think you have any level of expertise before you start teaching. It's like a 19-year-old life coach. Okay, it's the same exact thing in my mind. Once you're making 300 a year consistently, you can teach somebody how to make 100 grand. I mean, like I do believe that, right? If you're making 300 a year and you've done it 2 years in a row, like kudos to you, right? Like you clearly know what to do. Keep in mind though, the mistake though about bringing on junior agents is that do not bring on agents who have never closed a property. You want to be the person that they go to second. The mistake is them coming to you first. So if someone's made $0, they're brand new, green agent, do not bring them on your team. Because the problem is that learning curve, which we've all been through, right, is now on your shoulders. So the difference that I teach is essentially when you're hiring juniors, you want to be vetting them. And even if they've only closed, let's say 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 deals, like something small, nothing crazy. You've maybe closed 30, 50, 100 in your career, and they've closed 6. But they've made something, so you're not having them go through the full learning curve. It's really just the last tail piece of it to become more effective, more efficient, more productive through your systems and processes versus where they've been before. But you want to be their second move. You want them to have already done something with someone else, not be happy, but have already made $50,000 or $100,000 before in a year, where now you're going to help them make more. That's the key. And if you can focus on bringing on those types of players, you're going to have a lot easier growth. Now, small team is this. Small team is right after solo plus. So you're still going to have the transaction coordinator on a per transaction basis. You're still going to have the lead manager. You're still going to have the showing assistant, which you could then turn your showing assistant into a junior. And you maybe have 1 or 2 or 3 juniors at most. Now, the interesting thing about the small team is that I honestly believe that you could be between a 300K and a 1 million GCI range with a small team. You don't need to have a big organization to do $1 million in GCI, especially in the commercial real estate business. Like as an example, over the next 30 days, we're going to probably close a little over $1 million in GCI and fees. This just gives you some idea that, like, again, in commercial, I mean, that's only like 10 closings, by the way. All right, it's about 100K a closing. I mean, a little bit less. I think it might be maybe 9 closings, so it's a little over 100 grand. But if they're all $100,000 and you want to make $1 million a year, it's one closing a month, guys. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to close dozens and dozens of transactions to make $1 million in this business. But a small team is going to be a TC on a per transaction basis, a lead manager, which is a VA, and you can have one or maybe two of them, depending on your size, your database, okay, and your requests of what they're going to be doing, which, by the way, ours make sure every person has a task. Every single lead has a task to follow up with them. Number 2, every single lead that is in our follow-up campaign, right, in our follow-up sections, right, like not just super hot leads, but every single lead that needs to be followed up with is on a campaign, which means they're getting automatic text messages, voicemails, and emails. They make sure that every single lead also has a phone number. Every lead has an email. And if it doesn't, it gets kicked back, and we have to work on getting that information. So we're constantly organizing and sifting through, right, that's their job, our CRM to make sure it's as clean as possible. And if anything is missed, they kick it back to the agent and say, hey, you're missing this. Okay, great. Now they're going to set a task. That person's going to call, say, hey, missing an email, get email, right? And then it goes right back. That's the lead manager's job. And the showing assistant, like we've described, is where you should not be touring properties. It doesn't like you should either be on a listing appointment to list a property for sale, which obviously, again, like in my position, I'm kind of a step above that. I don't even go on the listing appointments unless it's something ridiculous and my agent's not going to get it. I don't even try to like personally push any of that. Or I'm trying to be on just every negotiation call possible. Anything that is negotiating that is beyond the first starting offer, I want to be on that call. I want to be negotiating every single deal. That's the highest and best use of my time. The better, that's the key part. If we have a seller who's willing to sell at a fair and reasonable price and a buyer who's willing to pay a fair and reasonable price, that's what I need to be on. It's the highest dollar productive activity that I can be on. My junior agents are going to be doing mostly, the prospecting, generating opportunities, generating, seller and buyer opportunities, and doing all the tours. So the small team is basically the TC, the lead man, the transaction coordinator / listing coordinator. You can even say /admin because you might not have that much for them to do, but it could be /admin. Maybe I'll, manage your emails, manage your calendar for you, a lot of that kind of stuff, administrative tasks. Your lead manager, like we talked about, showing assistant, plus 2 to 3 junior agents. That organization alone should be doing $1 million a year in GCI. If you train them appropriately, if you have daily meetings in the morning, daily meetings in the afternoon, really tight schedule. You do weekly team trainings. You do weekly pipeline reviews. You will build a team that does $300 to $1 million a year. That's the small team. Like I already said, do not bring on brand new green agents who've never made money. If you're bringing on any junior, okay, the other last thing I'll say to this compensation wise is that I always would try to start them off with something between a 25 and 40% comp. They make 25 to 40% on comps. Like that's their comp. You keep the balance. Now, you can go up to 50%, but just keep in mind that every time you hit north of 50, you're eating into your margin. Anything north of what I just described, it's just straight margin that you're eating into. Just keep in mind that like the more profitable you can be, the more money that you can then pour either into the business or pour into investments. So keep in mind, the people that I will give more than 50% to are producers. Like they are good producers. I can count on, X amount of dollars in my checking account every single year because these are good producers. So if you're bringing on a 200K a year person, 150K a year person, you might have to give them 60%. But it's like, keep in mind that like that, this is where, because like, again, small team is, most of the time you're dealing with somebody who's making sub 150 a year. The last one here, okay, is a mega team. Okay. Sort of like what I've got, 1 million in GCI plus. Now, when you're dealing with this, it gets a little bit more different, right? Which is sort of what I was just describing with the compensation. On the small team, you really don't want to be north of 40%, right? Because you need the margin. However, with mega teams, like again, I can be north of 50% all day long because when you have 45 brokers, it doesn't really matter, right? But again, I only offer that when the person's a good producer. And I'll say, hey, listen, if you ever want to have north of 50% or whatever the compensation structure we've agreed to, you need to have closed 10 deals. Like close 10 deals and we'll have a conversation about changing your split. But I'm not changing your split today. You've only done you've only done 6 deals in your entire career. Close 10 more and we'll have a conversation. But like for the next 10 deals, I'm going to be babysitting the crap out of you. So it's like in order for us to, have a mutual agreement, I want you to understand, like, it's like, hey, there's no negotiating whatsoever until you get to 10 closings. You get to 10 closings, we'll have a conversation. But then the goal here is like once you're at a mega team, it's having a full-time transaction support, administrative support, listing coordination support, full time, right? You might need, like, that person's going to be a multi-blended person. They can work from home. You don't need an office, right? Like, but a mega team, like, you're going to need somebody who's working 40 hours a week specifically for you. You can even splice that off a little bit. So if you want to just have, like, if you have one really good transaction coordinator on a per transaction basis / listing coordinator, you can bring on more of an administrative assistant you can even have a VA do this, right? But like, again, you need more 40-hour a week individuals. Like you need people who are going to be in the team, in the organization as often as possible. Marketing coordination, handling 100% of your OMs, and making sure that that's 100% organized. Weekly newsletters, handling 100% of your email blasts and pitching out these deals, right? Like, because sifting all the people who are going to respond to your email blast, making sure that you can bring on another lead manager where all they handle is your automatic text blasts, your automatic email blasts, all this kind of stuff to make sure anything that comes back from all that's being sifted and handled, right? Because you're going to have maybe, like, if you send out if we do 25,000 cold text messages a week, there's a lot of responses there. So a lot of people will respond. We have a specific individual where their job is one of our lead managers. All the leads there's the responses. She either responds to them and coordinates a call with our team because it's a very positive response. Or if it's a negative response, she tries to fix it and, like, she knows what to say. And if it doesn't go in any positive direction via text message, we can put them in a cold call bucket. So these people should be cold called because obviously it's the correct phone number. Anybody that's a wrong number, we throw out. Like, she'll sift through all that. But like, same thing with an email blast. We sent out 10,000 emails today. You're going to get a lot of responses. You might get 400 responses. Henry's not doing that. I'm not sifting through 400 responses. My lead manager is. And she'll skim through 400 responses real quick and say, hey, these are things that we should coordinate calls on. These are things that are completely wrong numbers, wrong emails, or whatever. And the rest of them, and we'll say, like, hey, we'll sporadically give these out to a few other people. We should send back follow-up emails, see what's going on. The purpose of a mega team is to continue to elevate yourself over time. But the one thing I just explained here, between solo plus, small team, mega team, you go through stages. And it's like, you don't need to rush through the stages. And everyone tries to rush it. It's like, hey, if in 5 years from today, you were making $2 million a year net income, okay, with a mega team with a dozen agents on your team, that wouldn't be a bad life. But it won't happen if you try to rush everything. It's like, figure out where you are. Are you a solo agent right now, right? Where you're struggling to make your first 150. If you're a struggling agent, then guess what? You need, and I'm going to start talking about real quick what you need to focus on. I'm going to talk about each topic. If you're a solo agent, if you're in the solo agent bucket, you're sub 150, the only thing you should focus on is the following 3 things. Dominate one lead gen strategy. Do it for 8 to 10 hours a day. Make sure you have a crazy lineup of investors. If you don't have at least 10 or 20 solid investors that you can prospect deals for, you're not going to ever get, close some deals. You're just not. Like, if you're not generating 1 or 2 opportunities a day and have a really good stacked bench of investors, you're probably never going to close a deal. You might, unless getting lucky is a factor. I don't believe it. I don't believe in just luck. It happens anyways. You get lucky by working. Okay. That's solo. Now, solo plus, you're in the 150 to 300 range. Okay. Bring on a TC. Bring on a transaction coordinator. Pay them on a per transaction basis. Hire a lead manager. Hire a VA to manage your CRM system. And you can bring on a showing agent. Those are the 3 main pieces. And you don't have to hire all 3 right away. You can hire one, let it roll. Hire a second, let it roll. Hire the third person, let it roll, right? And by the way, anytime you're going to hire somebody, our rule of thumb is interview 5 to 10 people before you hire anybody, okay? Interview 5 to 10 people before you hire anybody. Next is a small team. Now that you have your TC, your lead manager, and your showing agent, now you're going to start bringing on 2 to 3 juniors. I would tell you, be slow and methodical, not fast. And when you bring on a junior agent, pay them 25 to 40% and make sure that they've already failed somewhere else. Okay, that means they made some money, but they're unhappy. They've made some money. They made $50,000 to $100,000 somewhere else, but they're unhappy. You're going to give them a better home. I'm going to start answering some quick questions real quick. John, you were first. What percentage of gross revenues does your staff and extra help represent? Here's the craziest thing, right? Years ago, when I was doing like somewhere between $80,000 and $150,000 a month in the residential business, my support staff and all that kind of stuff, that was 40% plus. Okay, it was like 40 to 50% on the given month. Now, today, it's like less than 20%. I hover between 10 to 20% depending on how much we close each month. So I'm infinitely more profitable today than I was before. I made the mistake of doing that. This is like, but by the way, I had like 8 support staff. So like I had full time, I had like 40 to 50,000 a month in salaries. So like that was a poor judgment move. Don't do that. You can actually be very profitable today and have people on a per transaction basis, VAs for $1,000 fucking, right? Like you can have like showing agents who pay them on a $25 an hour basis for any tours that they do for this week or this month. I mean, it's not very expensive.